sprint race was due to start off at 11 o'clock, and we had a pretty clear sky for that.
Yes, weather conditions were pretty good. Track temperature was 30 air temperature 30 degrees, track temperature 39, and humidity a lot lower than the 100% we have now. So track conditions, everybody was set for that 10-lap sprint race, 20 minutes, whichever comes the sooner.
That's right. There had been a couple of changes overnight on the grid, with penalties being applied for people blocking others in that qualifying session. So South Africa had lost 3 places on the grid. They had qualified 8th, but it would line up in 11th place. Indonesia also lost a place as they had blocked a car, but although there was action taken between Germany and Ireland, Germany had actually run into the back of Ireland in the qualifying session. They lost the fastest time to Germany, but it didn't affect their grid position.
No, and I think that Ireland felt that was an unfair penalty, because although the quickest lap that they had done still didn't alter their grid position, what was the penalty?
Well, that's the way it stood, and it would see Switzerland and New Zealand lead the sprint race away from the front row of the grid. Let's take a look back at what happened a little earlier. The 7th race of this second season of A1GP about to get underway here in the heat and the humidity of Malaysia. Everyone stacking up behind the front row, which is Switzerland and New Zealand, and they get to start. New Zealand not making a good start. New Zealand having to go straight to the inside, and Germany's there threatening already, but now they're getting a good run. We're on board with Malaysia. Malaysia diving down the inside, trying to gain a place. Switzerland leading into the first corner. Great Britain in the middle there, and it's bunching up front. Switzerland, New Zealand and Germany trying to go around the outside. Germany up into second place.
Great start from Nico Hülkenberg, but look at the bunch of cars coming through turn 2. Somehow they've all made it round. There may have been contact. Look at Italy right in the middle of that bunch, as we got India trying to find a way around the outside. Look, coming out of turn 3, contact. Look at cars touching, going all over the racetrack.
Yeah, a bit of dust down as well, so that's got to be something to watch. USA in there. They've got past Canada, so USA past Canada. You're on board here with New Zealand trying to get second back from Germany. Germany had to go out wide. They're still slipping and sliding, and that's giving Switzerland the chance to make a break.
And New Zealand's car, you can see the back of the car just drifting outwards, coming out of turn 6, 9 to 7. Nico Hülkenberg has got part of his job done. He's got ahead of New Zealand. Now he's got Switzerland directly ahead of him. The speed of these two cars has been pretty much matched. Johnny Reid looks to come down the inside into turn 9. He needs to be careful. Getting too close to another car could see damage to the nose. He's not about to give up his second place.
Malaysia's running in 4th place. Great Britain in 5th. France is started very well. France is running in 6th place at the moment. You're with New Zealand, still running 3rd, but look back. You can see the yellow car of Malaysia running 4th. The Czech car of Thomas Enger in trouble. What a shame.
Is that that's a damaged rear suspension? There was contact. We thought there was contact coming through turn 3, and clearly that right rear corner is the consequence of that contact.
Malaysia in 4th place, Great Britain in 5th, France in 6th place, then it's the Netherlands, China in 8th, USA in 9th, and Canada in 10th position as they head down towards the final turn on the end of this first lap. Team Switzerland, I thought, was going to make a bit of a break, but, you know, Germany has caught up. Germany, the fastest car in all the practice sessions here this weekend, closing on Neil Yarni for Team Switzerland, but Switzerland in the driving seat currently. Germany 2nd, New Zealand 3rd, then it's Malaysia, then Great Britain and France.
There are a number of parts of this racetrack where overtaking is possible. Here is one of them, but you need to be a lot closer. Hülkenberg taking a much tighter line round turn 1, does close down to the back of Switzerland, but is here out of turn 2 and the run up through 2. This is down the hill through turn 3 into turn 4, but again the gap under acceleration goes back to the favour of Switzerland. Hülkenberg not close enough, but he's done what he needed to do to get ahead of New Zealand. If the positions remain as they are right now after 10 laps, he will be on the front row of the grid for the sprint for the feature race.
Couple of cars in the pits. Indonesia and Brazil. I've just seen both coming into the pits, but Switzerland still leading. There's Indonesia into the pits, and we gather Italy's also got a problem, so there was more contact than we thought on that opening lap.
Well, certainly we saw clouds of dust which may have been on the track. Johnny Reid struggling with an oversteering car. We saw that on the opening lap as we go back into the pit lane.
Brazil being worked on.
South Africa. Look at this. Look at Italy. He's trying to pull the car to safety, but the suspension on the left rear of the car is broken, and it is literally crabbing its way down the back straight, trying to get to safety in the pit lane entrance.
Well, poor old Enrico Toccacella. Italy's having a terrible time this weekend. Doesn't get any better, does it? but up front, Switzerland leads from Germany. I was going to say it's a bit of a deja vu this for Neil Yarni of Switzerland here. Last year, he had the French car filling his mirrors, and Alexander Premat was able to get past him on the last lap of the sprint race. On the power boost, take a look at this. They have 4 available initially in the sprint race, but already they've used a couple of those, have New Zealand and Switzerland.
And New Zealand is just very, very gradually beginning to close up to the back of Germany, and the reason is that Switzerland's pace is slightly slower than the Germany and New Zealand are capable of running at. Australia looking to dive down the inside of South Africa. Can he get it done? He does. Good pass by Ryan Briscoe.
That was a good move by Briscoe.
But watch for the switch back from South Africa. They've got the run off the corner. They're going to be side by side as they come past. The pit centre, South Africa is regained, but it's a squeeze now from South Africa on Australia down into turn 1.
This is still going to be tight. South Africa on the good line on the outside. Australia, nope, loses the place. Oh, but he's gone too deep, South Africa, and I think he's off.
He locked up that wheel. He was too deep. He looked like he'd done a good job, but he's got it back, but he has lost that position. He lost it to turn 15, then he regained, but he's recovered. He did a good job. He thought that was a gravel trap visit for South Africa. Adrian Zoud kept it out of the gravel and lives to fight another corner.
Australia started in 17th place and they're up to 12th position, so that's a good effort from Ryan Briscoe. Meanwhile, the point... Oh, there's Italy. They have made it back into the pits despite...
I have never, ever seen a race car crab like that. I've seen road cars that have been welded up in the middle out of 2 cars crab like that, but there you see the damage. And then Czech Republic, he's out of it as well. The same problem with the right rear in this case. So that contact that we did see coming through turn 3 was the reason why a lot of contact in that midfield bunch.
On board with Team New Zealand, riding in 3rd place. It's Switzerland, Germany, New Zealand. These 3 have broken well clear of Malaysia, Great Britain, France, the Netherlands in 7th, Canada in 8th place, ahead of China, so there's a change there.
Let's look again now. Was there contact in the run into turn 1? I think it had all occurred when everybody managed to get through turn 1 cleanly, but look, Alex Young took a huge punt down the inside. Contact with Germany and New Zealand, in fact. We didn't see that on the initial lap, but it'll be here in turn 2 where the bunch gets really, really, well, virtually everybody in the midfield was bumping off each other, but it was now, as you drop downhill through the double left, double right, turn 3, where all that contact would have occurred.
Yeah, and I think Italy, the Czech Republic and Brazil were all sandwiched together there. I think it was just a bit of bumping and boring, just no space left. Unfortunately, it's claimed several victims. So Switzerland leading with 7 laps to go in the sprint race. Germany still very close behind. New Zealand dropping away a fraction in 3rd. There was a lock-up from Switzerland. Now Malaysia next up, followed by Great Britain, France, the Netherlands. Then it's Canada. China's dropped back another place there, John. They've lost out to USA and now under pressure from Mexico as well. So a bit of a change. China just dropping down the order a few places. Frankie Cheng not having quite as much as a comfortable ride as he had in qualifying when he put the car in 5th place on the grid. Australia still running in 12th, South Africa 13th, Ireland 14th. Let's get some news now from Lee Mackenzie in pit lane with Thomas Enger.
Thomas, what happened out there?
Well, we were going to turn 4 and there was, I think, like maybe 5 cars side by side. I was one of them, and that's always happens something when you are starting from the back of the grid. So unfortunately we were hit by one of the car, and I think the Italy had the same problem. So we need to repair the car properly and get ready for the future race, which is very important for us. And I believe we can still finish in top 10 if we are lucky and if we are fast.
Is there much damage to your car?
I don't think so. It's only a right rear corner and the rear wing. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Gearbox is fine, so let's put it together and rock and roll again.
Thomas, thank you.
Looking at Team Netherlands now, he's running in 7th place. Canada still close in behind, driven by Sean McIntosh this weekend, or in fact, just looking at that, yeah, still there, tucked in behind him. USA not far behind them then in 9th place, with 10th place being held by China. But remember, in this sprint race, only the top 6 score points. They will start the feature race wherever they finish this one. Oh, Ireland just sliding a bit on the brakes. India and Singapore having a great battle here. The youngster Armin Abraham up against Christian Murchison.
Well, we're going to see a lot of close proximity racing. We're not necessarily seeing a lot of overtaking. The difficulty is that there's 3 clear spots on the racetrack where you can do those overtaking manoeuvres. Around the rest of the racetrack, it's a flowing racetrack, as we're seeing here. Looking down this camera shot,
Switzerland still leading from Germany, and the question is, will Germany really take the big gamble and go for victory in the sprint race when a front row start here for the feature race would still be very useful?
The benefit of getting a race victory here is that you get the position on the grid. You get to start on the left-hand side of the grid rather than on the right-hand side, and of course it's a standing start. So that's the incentive to get ahead, apart from winning a race. Bodywork damage to Germany. Now, we mentioned there was contact in turn one with the New Zealand car. Germany and New Zealand getting together once again, and you see part of the aerodynamic, as you see in Switzerland, well, one of those flaps is worked loose on Germany's car.
Let's get down to the pit. Simon Hill is with Ananda Mikula of Indonesia.
Ananda, very disappointing. What happened?
I tried to overtake the Singapore car, and then I just overtake him, and then the car involved me, Italy, just closed the door. But I think also he not look at the mirror, so that's it. That's like the normal incident. But it's really shame because the car is going good.
I have a better race next time, Ananda.
On board with Team Malaysia here, and Great Britain is not far behind. Robbie Kerr getting closer to the back of Alex Young.
Yes, he is. He's begun to get into that groove, and he's closing down. And Robbie Kerr is remorseless when he has an opportunity to make a pass. He was one of the best of the overtakers. Sean McIntosh. Yes, down the inside of Netherlands. Can he get it done? Because Netherlands is going to try and go around the outside, and he's done it. So he's regained the advantage. Good move by McIntosh, but he couldn't get the momentum back up again. Now into the aerodynamic slipstream. Last year he clipped his nose by running too close to a car he was trying to pass. Go around the outside this time, McIntosh. Not well. He's going to. No, he can't get it done.
Oh, tight racing between the Netherlands and Canada, and McIntosh really throwing everything into this battle, but Jeroen Bleekemolen driving cleverly, just positioning the car very, very well, and making it very difficult for Canada to find enough space to get past. Frustration building up perhaps for Team Canada, but he can't let it get to him. Here's a chance perhaps into turn 4. It is a potential overtaking opportunity, but you've got to be totally alongside.
Yeah, before you get on the brakes, you've got to be alongside, because the car that you're trying to pass, it'll pull across the front of you. So in that particular corner, it is a necessity to be side by side.
Switzerland still leading this race. The fastest lap has gone to New Zealand so far, who are running in 3rd position, remember. But New Zealand with the fastest lap at this early-ish stage. We're halfway through the sprint race now. We're watching the battle that's going on for 7th place. Netherlands in 7th, followed by Canada, then USA. And USA closing up to the back of the group, back with the leaders once again, the black car of New Zealand, as I mentioned, looking for its first podium finish in 27 A1GP races. Well, if he stays where he is, he's on target, and he's also got the fastest lap here.
And also he will get 4 valuable points, and that's what it's all about. Now everything is sort of consolidated. I think Germany's accepted that they're not going to win this race. They're prepared to take that front row grid position for 2nd place. And I think that Johnny Reid for New Zealand is, well, look at that, he's still trying hard, because he got the car a little bit out of shape coming into turn 15, and really all the way through the field now with 5 laps to go, but it'll be 4 when they come across the line. It is now more about consolidation. Don't try and do something crazy unless there's a clear overtaking maneuver which you can execute and move on from.
Yeah, it's probably not worth taking the big gamble at this stage. You want to be well on the grid for the feature race, which pays more points. You get 10 points for the win in the feature race as opposed to 6 points for the win here in the sprint race. Riding on board with Australia, Ryan Briscoe's already made progress in this race. He's currently running in 12th, but he's up behind the leading nation of A1GP. That's Mexico. Not likely to score in this race, that's for sure, and still looking to try and move their position to improve on their grid position for the feature race. But with Germany running 2nd, Germany are going to go to the head of the points table. If everything stays as it is right now, Germany will reclaim the top spot. Mexico failing to score. Great Britain will also perhaps move up close to the back of Mexico, although they won't be able to quite get past.
Well, here we have a battle going on with the nations from the Far East, with Singapore chasing down India. Ahmad Ibrahim I think he's just turned 17 now, hasn't he?
He is 17 now. He was only 16 when he beat. Well, it's hot and humid here in Malaysia. You can see New Zealand's car moving around a bit more as he just loses touch slightly with Team Germany. Switzerland still in a commanding lead of just over 1 second. Malaysia running back in 4th place. Great Britain just behind in 5th. Then the gap back to France in 6th position. The Netherlands in 7th and Canada in 8th.
Well, really, I think the top 8 it's all about consolidation. The gaps between each car are about half a second to a second. So everybody, I think, has decided that this is where we are, and that's where they're going to finish. So Team GBR with Robbie Kerr, who did look like he might put a bit of a move on Malaysia. He also has realised that to do so would have been putting himself and his nation into jeopardy, and he's decided that it's better to start on the 3rd row of the grid in 5th place than to start at the back of the row, back of the grid in last place.
Yeah, if something goes wrong, that's what would happen. On Malaysia also similarly, they'd be pretty happy, I think, because remember, Alex Young started in 7th position. He's running here in 4th place. I think they'll be very, very satisfied with that. It'll give them a 2nd row starting position for the feature race, and with the way that he perhaps can look after the tyres, he could be in good shape. Although, having said that, he hasn't had the same pace as the top 3 cars, Switzerland, Germany and New Zealand.
But at a lot of this 35-lap feature race, it's not going to be about out-and-out pace itself. It's going to be about the ability to maintain a continuous or constant pace, because this is going to be a very difficult 70-minute race or 35 laps in very warm conditions. These are physical racing cars. There is no power assistance on the steering.
Has there been a little bit of change? No, France, no, that's all right. I was just looking at USA closing up to the back of Team Canada, and France are still running tucked in behind Great Britain. They may be a little bit closer to the back of Great Britain than they were, but I don't think they're in a chance to challenge. Team USA, they ended up 10th on the grid. They're now running in 9th place. Don't seem to have been able to demonstrate the sort of pace that we saw once or twice in practice.
No, and in fact, I think like many teams here this weekend, they've been scratching their heads as to find the perfect setup for the car for qualifying. Doesn't necessarily follow that the perfect setup for qualifying is the perfect race setup. So a lot of work can still be done by teams before they enter the 35-lap feature race. Big loser, really, I think, in this whole 10-lap sprint race has been China, who started so well with qualifying in 5th on the grid down into 10th place, and that probably because in that 1st and 2nd turn the melee of cars really was such that Frankie Chang got probably just outplaced, and he dropped back. He lost so many places in the opening lap, and he's not been able to do anything about it. The pace that China have shown throughout qualifying has not been here in the race.
The leaders go on to the final lap now here in the sprint race. It's Team Switzerland looking for their first victory of season 2 of A1GP, and Neil Yarney hoping to make up for the disappointment of losing a possible win here 12 months ago when Alexander Premat passed him on the last lap. I don't think Germany's going to do that here, and we've got another battle still. Singapore's got past India, but India's now trying to come back round the outside into turn 1. Great stuff between these two.
And almost contact, but both drivers did a good job, particularly Arman Ibrahim, who kept the car sufficiently far away from Singapore, as Singapore on the inside line was edging out towards the centre of the circuit. But there's been a battle that's gone on for 9 laps between these two nations, and finally Singapore has got ahead of India.
But it's Switzerland that has commanded this race from pole position. Neil Yarney made a beautiful getaway. Germany managed to move up into 2nd place, nipped past New Zealand through those first few corners, but still New Zealand looking for a fine 3rd position. Such an important position for them to score some consistent points. That's what they came here to Malaysia to do, and they'll be well up on the grid for the feature race as well. But it's a return to form for Neil Yarney. He did drive the car in Beijing, but that was a race that really didn't get a chance to get into any kind of rhythm, and went out of the feature race with brake failure. He's arrived here in Malaysia, where he was so effective last year. He's driven Formula 1 cars here in the past as well, and he just clicked it into qualifying, took pole, and he's commanded this race.
Yes, he's commanded it, and there's a big difference than Neil Yarney won a year ago to where we are now. Maturity and experience has paid dividends.
Switzerland take the victory in the sprint race in Malaysia. A perfectly driven performance from Neil Yarney. Germany takes 2nd place, and with that, Germany regains the lead in the points. New Zealand a fine 3rd. 4th position goes to the home nation, Malaysia, ahead of Great Britain and Team France, with the Netherlands holding on to 7th place, just outside the points in the sprint race. Canada 8th, USA 9th, and China did bring the car home in 10th.
But Neil Yarney delighted.
So let's just confirm those results. Switzerland taking the victory courtesy of Neil Yarney by 1.2 seconds from Germany. New Zealand finishing in a fine 3rd place. Malaysia in 4th, having started in 7th position. Great Britain in the points again in 5th, with France getting the 1 point for 6th place courtesy of Nicolas Lapierre.
Neil, the ice obviously worked. Cool head, cool race.
Yeah, well, Nico was always in distance, but I just tried to keep it clean and constant and not trying to push too hard, and it worked out.
This is only your second weekend back in A1GP, but you've made quite an impact so far. Are we going to see a lot more of you?
Well, I hope so. Well, Beijing wasn't really what we thought of. We can't call it really a race weekend because I guess it would have worked a lot better. But now at the first real race weekend, to be back like that is fantastic.
Nico, congratulations, second place. What happened at the start? It looked as if you had a pretty good start.
Yeah, my start was pretty good, and then into the first corner, I just know it out of my view. I first want to see it on the TV screens what happened. I can't really tell you about this.
Okay, but you're comfortable with the car and looking forward to the feature race?
Yeah, we're confident, but as you saw, Neil is really quick as well on a long distance. But I think it's a long race and everything can happen.
Well, Germany are now at the top of the championship, so that's good news for them. Let's move along now to third place, Johnny Reid. Johnny, this is your first podium, New Zealand's first podium in 27 races, but you're not smiling too much.
No, not at all. You know, the first corner, you know, to be running by my teammate, I'm not too happy about that, but you know, we'll have to sit down and talk about it again because it's the second time it's happened, and you know, we're lucky that we both didn't go off. He hit right on my rear tyre, and I think for the remainder of the race that the rear suspension was a bit damaged. So yeah, I'm a bit annoyed about it, but you know, third place is still good. It's still good points, and we just got to get our head down, fine-tune the car a little bit more, and get it right for the main race.
And what about the feature race? Are you confident for that? Will you change anything on the car?
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't too happy with the car. We didn't quite have the pace of the other cars. I was pushing quite hard and working quite hard to keep up. So yeah, we've got a little bit of work to do, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the main race.
Johnny, thanks very much.